Hey bro, hope you're doing amazingly well. In this video I'm going to share with you something that will make your nofap journey and your semen retention journey 10 times easier. I realized this after having mastered lust myself, not watching porn in more than 3 years now, not fapped in more than 6 months now, and after also having helped many other people, with their nofap and their semen retention journey, I realized that it was all about 5 main phases. Now, I bet that you are in one of those 5 phases, and when you actually understand in which one you're in and you realize what the steps are that you need to take to get to the next one, you will do way faster progress, because you won't be there stuck anymore. Like I used to be, not really knowing what the problem was, where I was at, and what I had to do to get to the next phase. I didn't even know that there were 5 main phases. And so I'm actually sharing this with you because I know how powerful these 5 phases are. If you actually understand where you're at, how to get to the next one, you will very easily get to beat lust. To be there, have amazing energy, feel way better with yourself, feel like you are actually able to do something, not fapping, not watching porn anymore, and finally be free from that bad addiction. Now, what is actually the first phase of nofap? I bet that you already passed the first phase. Most people that watch nofap videos already passed the first phase, and that is to make the initial realization. Now, the initial realization is the step that everyone has to go through to basically start, implementing and start doing nofap and start trying to beat lust. Realizing that you have a problem, that you want to stop, that nofap, semen retention, will improve your life. That's the realization that you have to do. Now, the actionable step for this first phase is actually very simple. It's just about starting to take action, trying to not fap. That's it, that's all. If you realize that, nofap, semen retention might improve your life, the only thing you need to do is try it out. Try doing nofap. Try not fapping, try not watching porn. That's the only thing you really need to do in phase number 1. The second phase is a very interesting one. And that is of another deep realization. Now, once you start taking action, you try nofap, you try not fapping, not watching porn anymore, you will very probably, if you've been fapping since a long time, realize something very interesting. That you're hooked, that you're addicted. Here is the first time you actually realize that you have a problem. Because very often what happens is that many people, they realize, okay, nofap might be amazing. So they think to themselves, well, I want to try it out, right? Sounds amazing, getting more girls, higher energy, higher motivation, all of that. They try and they fail. And then they think to themselves, it was just little mistake, little mistake. So try again, yeah, easy, I won't fap anymore. And they fail again, and again, and again, and again. And after having failed, 20 times in the past 14 days, or 20 times in the past month, that's when you realize that you have a problem. That's the phase number 2, the big struggling, I call it. Now in this phase, you basically realize that you have made that contract with the devil, that you are indeed addicted. And the main actionable step for this phase, I guess that you already passed this phase, that you already, realized that you are addicted, is taking it personally, is really realizing that you want to break that contract, that you want to free your life. Because in phase number 1, you just realize, okay, yeah, nofap might be interesting. You realize that there is a thing called nofap, and you wanted to try it out to see if the benefits that they all talk about are real or not. In the second phase, you realize that you're actually addicted. You realize that you actually have a problem. And that's very important, because that's when you actually realize that you really want to quit that addiction, that you are addicted and you have to do something about it. And so the actionable step for the second phase is actually very simple, bro. You have to not, fall into the temptation of giving up. You have to really stay firm in you wanting to break that contract with the devil, in you wanting to break free from that bad habit. And you will probably start asking for help to others. Now that's actually the first phase, because when you realize that you have a problem and you really are struggling, what many people do, including me, and what I highly recommend you doing, is starting to ask for help. That's the third phase, asking for help. Now that will probably lead you to find some information about nofap, so find some information about semen retention, improve yourself, realize some things that you didn't know, realize a few tricks that might help you out, and very probably get to a few days streaks, right? That's what most people do, and I bet that you're in that phase. Most people who are in nofap are stuck in phase number 3. They're able to do a few days, sometimes a few weeks, but not really a lot, right? Maybe 1 week, maximum 2, but then they fall back to it. Now, to get from phase number 3 to phase number 4, you have to realize the nofap game. You have to realize the most important mindsets and things to do to basically, get further and be able to not watch porn, not fap for at least a few days in a row. To be able to have some streaks, as we like to call them in the nofap community, in the semen retention community. But really, don't think about the terms, just focus on the principles. Now, if you want to start having some longer streaks, there are 4 main things I highly recommend you doing. First of all, you have to understand exactly the cues that trigger your urges. Now, what does that mean? For me, it meant that I needed to realize that I pretty much always ended up fapping in the same setting. And that's probably the same for you. And I've seen that it's very often the same for pretty much everyone I've helped, everyone I've talked to that had problems with porn addiction and fapping. They all basically fap pretty much in the same setting or after the same cues. Now, for me personally, it was being alone at home and being bored. That meant that after school, I was going to middle school back then, I was just bored, didn't know what to do. I was alone at home, and that's when the urges started kicking in. I was there doing homework maybe, or watching some anime, playing some Fortnite, scrolling on some Instagram reels, also seeing girls shaking their asses there. And that's when I started getting my urges. Now, I've heard people who start getting urges when they're bored, when they're alone at home, when they, have talked with girls, but they didn't approach or didn't ask for the number, or when they scroll on Instagram or TikTok and they basically see many, women there. And you really need to define exactly what the cues are that get you to get urges, so that you can eliminate, so that you can actually start doing something about them, right? If normally you get the urges when you're alone at home bored, make sure that you're not alone at home. Get out somewhere. If you have to do your homework, get to the library where you cannot fap. Or make sure that you are not bored. Find things to do, right? Until you do not define exactly what gets you to fap, you're not going to be able to eliminate the problem, because you're not going to be able to eliminate the cues. It's very, very important. Find out the things that get you to fap, the circumstance, the time, the setting, what activities you normally do, what things that trigger you, and then make sure that it doesn't happen, or it happens in a different way that doesn't trigger you anymore. It's literally as simple as that. Second thing you can do is make it very unattractive. Now, what does that mean? It means very simply to understand the downsides of fapping and the pros, so the benefits of nofap, of semen retention. Now, you probably have already done this, but for a very long time, I really didn't know exactly why I wanted to stop fapping, why I wanted to do semen retention. I didn't have a deep why. I was just listening to others, following what everyone was telling me of, higher energy and all of those things. But I didn't really know for me why I was doing it. And that was the reason why I was failing over and over and over again. You need to understand exactly why you want to do it, not why other people tell you that you should do it, why you want to do it. That's very key. So find out the benefits of nofap, find out the downsides of fapping, of watching porn, and then realize why you want to do it. Have a deep enough why, and you will be able to bear anyhow. The third thing you can do is make it as hard as possible to fap, to go and watch porn, and to do those things that you don't want to be doing. How do you do that? Very simple. A few tricks that I've suggested other people doing and that I've done myself were downloading those nofap blocker apps so that basically you cannot go on those pages anymore. Make sure that you have an accountability partner. You can get that online, but ideally you have someone who you really respect, who you really don't want to know that you're watching porn, and you ask them for help. You basically tell them, I have this problem, bro. Maybe it's a friend of yours and you want to quit porn and quit, fapping together. So basically together, you're going to do a pact. You're going to tell yourself, when I'm going to fap, I'm going to tell you and we're going to talk about it. So that really helped me out a lot because it made it way more hard for me to fap. I didn't really want that person to know. It was a friend of mine and we were doing it together. Now you can also do that with apps. So you could literally get an app, and I will link it in the description down below, where you can let literally your mother know or your girlfriend or your best friend or your teacher or whoever other person that you are fapping. Now you really want to find out someone that you're comfortable with and that you don't really want them to know that you're watching porn, because that will make it way more harder. Believe me, if that person is going to see that you're watching some hentais and whatever thing, and you're knowing while you're doing it that person is getting the notification that you're doing it, you will think 10 times before doing it. So you really want to find ways to make it as hard as possible. If, for example, you normally, fap 4 in the afternoon after having done homework and you're bored and whatever, right? You found the cue and you're doing it on your iPad. Just sell your iPad or get away your iPad at that time or give it to someone so that you cannot use it. Put it somewhere where you can't get it. Make it as hard as possible for you to go on those pages, for you to fap. That's the third trick. You could literally also go somewhere outside, study in the park, study in the library, or whatever other thing you want to be doing where you normally, get the cue to fapping. Do it somewhere where you cannot fap. It's literally as simple as that. Fourth thing, make it very punishing. Find a way to punish yourself when you actually fap and watch porn. Decide literally right now what the punishment will be. It could literally be giving someone you hate $10 or doing something else that you don't really like. Now, there is a thing you don't want to be doing. Don't use a good habit as a punishment for watching porn. So if you want to also start going to the gym or you're already going to the gym, don't use going to the gym or taking a cold shower or doing another positive habit as a punishment for fapping, because otherwise you will associate it with a punishment and you won't do it anymore. It's literally as simple as that. It will be harder to do that other good habit. So don't do this big mistake. Now, you will actually be able to get to a few days, weeks, very probably month streaks. If you actually implement these 4 steps, you make it invisible, make it very unattractive, make it very hard, make it very punishing, you're going guaranteed to get to a few weeks, probably month streak. But then you will have another problem. And that's when you actually enter stage number 4. The identity shift stage. You will still fall back to it. Every few weeks, months, you will fall back to fapping, to watching porn. And you won't really know why. You will be there and be proud of yourself. You're starting to beat it. You're starting to go away from it. And after you get a few, 3-4 week streaks, you think to yourself, I'm making it. I'm getting better and better. But then you inevitably start fucking up over and over again. Every few months, you fuck up. And you think to yourself, why am I doing that? I've been not fapping since 2 months now. Why did I fap today? Now, the big thing that you need to understand in order to really, cancel the contract you made with the devil the day you started out fapping and watching porn, is that your identity is still tied to fapping. What does that mean? For a very long time, I was there, having month streaks and then fapping and going back to it over and over again. Didn't know why. It was because my identity was still not one of someone who was not fapping anymore. My identity had not changed. I was better at not fapping, but I was still someone who was fapping. I was still seeing myself as someone who fapped. And that was the problem. It took me probably 2 years of having month streaks, 2 months, sometimes even 3 months, and fucking up over again and over again, and asking myself, why the fuck am I fucking up? To realize this. So it's really important. If you're in stage number 4 and you feel like you're so far away from fapping now, but you still go back to it, it is because your identity hasn't changed. Now that means that you're taking action in line with the person who is not fapping, but deep down you still feel like you're not fully detached from it. And that is the reason why every now and then you will get back to it. The thing is this, we always end up acting in line with our identity. Our actions always end up being in line with the person we deep down feel like to be. Now that means that you can take action which are not in line with that person. You can, stop fapping if you still feel like you're deep down someone who has problems with fapping and watching porn. You cannot fap for weeks and months. You can really fight against your deep, sense of identity, but inevitably you will fall back to it. Doesn't matter if it's in 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you will fall back to it, 100% guaranteed. Until your identity doesn't change, you won't totally be detached from it. Now, how do you actually change your identity? Fortunately, it's actually very simple. You just have to define it first. So define exactly who you want to be, and you do that with an I am ... statement. So I am no more someone who watches porn. I am no more someone who faps. I'm someone who doesn't watch porn, doesn't fap. Very simple, very straightforward. Second thing, you want to make sure to act in line with it. And if you're at this stage, you're probably already doing it. That's the nice thing. You're already acting in line with someone who doesn't fap. Now, thirdly, you want to reconfirm and reinforce that identity. Because action is one thing, but you also want to tell yourself and tell others, that's very more powerful. I don't watch porn. I'm not someone who watches porn, not someone who faps anymore. And you want to tell that every single time you're able to beat your urges, every single time, every single day, every single morning, every single time you meet up someone and talk with them about it, when you're meeting your accountability partner, you want to reinforce this over and over again. I'm not someone who watches porn anymore. And you do that until one day something magical will happen. You will realize that you really are no more someone who watches porn. And when you realize that, I made this realization about 6 months ago. Since then, guess what? I haven't, fapped. Watching porn, I made this realization about 3 years ago. And since that day, I haven't watched porn anymore because it was no more in line with me, with who I felt to be. And so before I ended up falling back to my old identity, now I can no more because it's no more me. And so when you make that last, step of really one day being there, stopping and realizing, bro, I made it. I'm no more someone who watches porn, who faps. That's the day when you will no more watch porn and no more fap in your entire life again. If you don't fall back and make another contract with the devil, right? If you don't, start changing your identity, but you won't be doing that anymore, 100% sure. And that's when you actually got to the 5th phase, which I like to call the you won phase. You literally won. You master this game. You finally are free from lust. You canceled the contract with the devil. You're free now. You have way more energy. You feel way better about yourself, way more confident. You, bro, feel amazingly comfortable also with talking with girls and being around girls, because you know deep down that you're no more someone who is there in his room alone, you know, in the corner, watching porn and fapping when no one is watching. Everyone knows that we won't be doing it right in the public, because we know that it's something that is kind of like we feel ashamed of doing. And so when you actually beat that shame, you beat it, you won, you feel at peace with yourself. And so if you got to phase number 5, the actionable step you can actually start taking is very simple. Master the next step, master the next thing. Go on to another bad habit you have, to building another good habit. Level up in something else. You master this game, bro. You maybe have, quit porn forever. Now it's time to work on semen retention. When you actually master that game, you can now try to not, come during sex, or like do enlightened sex, or like get to the next level, bro. Find the next thing that you want to improve yourself on. You want to be continuously improving. Don't stay still. Don't stay still. Always improve. That's the actionable step for the 5th phase. You want to find the next thing and master that. That's it. So I'm sure that if you actually realize at what stage you're at in this video, and now you also know what you can do about it, and you start taking action, you will get to phase number 5 very quickly. Now I probably would have gotten there within a few months, or maybe a few weeks even, if I would have known this knowledge way back then, a few years ago. And that's why I actually made this video, because I know that there are many people out there, many ones I talked to, and I really understood that it's all about these 5 phases. Many people don't know about them. Many people are stuck with nofap, with semen retention, with not watching porn anymore. And I really wanted to make this video and really hope that you watched it to this point, so that you actually got all the value. Anyways, before I forget, if you have some other struggles on your nofap journey, on your semen retention journey, and you want my personal help with them, you have some other problems, some struggles, some questions, you can literally book a totally free coaching call with me personally. We would basically discuss them, I will understand the problems and help you solve them. It's literally as simple as that, so you progress faster for free. Anyways, if that helped you out, if it sounds like something that you want, you know where to find it in the description down below. If not, no problem. I thank you a lot for your time and your attention. Anyways, bro, really hope you got to this point of the video. If you did, if you liked it and it actually helped you out, make sure to leave a like to let me know that you liked the video, and to subscribe to not miss on my future ones, bro. I totally wish you all the best, bro. I'm 100% sure that you will fucking do it, bro. You will get to that phase 5. You will, 100%. See ya. Ciao.